Start us off, Callum.
Uh, wow. You ever think you know what you're gonna say, and then it just dies on your way out of the mouth.
Yeah, I even gave you a little bit of extra time to become man bun Kevin.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to think of like a song that had to do with the moon. I was gonna sing a couple bars, but
Um,
all I could think of was the cow jumped over the moon. But I
that
forgot how it actually went, so I
that
was just
was
gonna
my
say
first thought.
the cow jumped over the moon.
That was my first thought. My second thought was Rocket Man. So,
So yeah,
Cal, why were you trying to think of a song that began with moon or has the moon referenced in it?
because today we are talking about the moon, its existence, and several conspiracy theories dealing with the small rock, because I mean, what else is it, that
Nothing
floats
much.
around our planet? You see, ever since its creation by the government, oh, sorry, we weren't supposed to talk about that yet.
Yeah,
Ever
let's.
since the beginning of human history, the moon has been subject to debate as to what it is, why it's there, and have we ever actually been there? And today, we will get all of those answers,
We
right?
we will.
Is that true?
Hold on. Is it true?
I don't know. It's a conspiracy.
We call that a segue.
So yeah, here we are.
CastPod conspiracy.
Pew, 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 pew.
Our second new show, our two of two, if you will.
Oh
Just
yes,
gonna.
and to everyone listening, today is Friday.
Yes,
Today is Friday.
Friday.
I'm gonna keep saying it, and it'll be true.
Yes, Friday, November 20th.
Oh, that's when we're. Oh, okay. I was gonna say that we uploaded this on the time that we were supposed to.
No, we just missed it, so I'm thinking we either double release uh, this in a CastPod conservation, or if we just act like Friday the 13th never happened.
Fair enough. Okay, well then it actually will be a Friday. Never mind. I don't have to convince you. Moving
Yes.
on. Let's talk about the moon.
Yes, the moon. So, first, you want to tell a little bit about the show that we're starting before we
Sure, I guess I
deep
could.
dive into the moon?
I mean, I'll leave everybody waiting on the juicy bits, but sure. So this is our topic-specific show where we talk about conspiracies,
Mm-hmm.
because conspiracies are cool
Mm-hmm.
and they're always worth a discussion. Today we decided to choose the moon because there's all kinds of conspiracies dealing with that. We've got a lot planned for this, a lot of hotly debated things, some
Oh, yeah.
things not so hotly debated, um, as well as not only are we going to talk about conspiracies because conspiracies is kind of a general term nowadays. Like basically
Yeah.
anything that you can't
Anything
even say
that's not
anything that you can't
guaranteed.
prove.
I would
Yeah,
say, yeah, anything not guaranteed is probably considered a conspiracy right now.
but still, you have conspiracies that many people agree are proved. So who knows what it's just basically if somebody believes it and somebody doesn't, it's a conspiracy.
But that's
Um,
just a conspiracy.
that's just a theory, a
Okay.
conspiracy theory. Come on. And we'll talk about other things too,
Mm-hmm.
like cryptozoology we
Yep.
were just
We
discussing
just mentioned
earlier.
that to each other.
Um, yeah, so it'll be fun. And if anybody has any suggestions, stuff they want to hear about, please feel free. But I think both of us know quite a bit about what we want to talk about already. So
Yes.
we'll still be interested to hear what everybody else has to say. But yeah, I
This
think we're very prepared for this.
So this has been my number one topic, and honestly, on my end, the part that I want to like really make this specific show out of because of the one episode of like our regular old cast pod, we did
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy theories. And part of the reason this started was because we did it and we had so much fun talking about conspiracy theories. And Callum's always in some sort of know about some sort of theory that,
I go to the weird parts of
yeah,
YouTube.
he he goes down the rabbit hole.
I really do.
But um so it's like, wow, this is a good idea. If only we had more time to talk about it. And then one
And
thing
now
led
we
to
have
another. We
all
do.
the time.
So first off, the shining star of the original CastPod conspiracy episode, the
The
moon.
moon. I hope that was in time.
I
It
ho-
didn't feel like
it
it,
was
but I
not
hope.
in sync. It was more Backstreet Boys.
That's okay.
All
But
right.
yeah, there's a, like we keep mentioning, there's a plethora of theories about the moon. So I think I will leave it to you to start us off.
All right. So I would say first things first.
Mm-hmm.
What is the moon? What do we know about the moon besides that it's just a giant
Nothing.
rock in space?
We know that it's created by the government.
Okay.
We know that it is a hologram.
Okay.
We know that it is made out of cheese.
Okay.
We know that it is a spaceship.
Mm-hmm. Like Cybertron?
Yes, it is the planet that the Transformers came from,
Excellent.
which was actually in one of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
They were hiding in the moon.
The Dark Side of the Moon. Was it Dark Side of the Moon? Was that it? What it actually was titled?
Probably, I don't remember.
All right.
Um, and it's also a rock.
Excellent. It
Yep.
is. So to live to give a little bit of a more background on specifically the moon before we go into the theories,
Sure.
I somehow stumbled upon the NASA website
Great.
specifically with the moon. So first off,
Mm-hmm.
for one time for the moon to orbit around the Earth, it takes about 27 days. It is
Mm,
a humble 239,000 miles from Earth.
just a quick hop, skip, and a jump.
Oh, yeah. And it gets a little cold. It gets to about negative 387 degrees Fahrenheit. But don't you worry, because it also gets pretty warm. We're going to flip that for a positive 253 degrees Fahrenheit on the hot side of the moon.
How the heck did anybody walk on
I don't
that?
know. That's how hot is lava?
Pretty darn hot.
Lava.
Um,
So
colder than
okay,
that.
lava's about 2,000 degrees.
Oh, okay.
So if you can walk on the moon, you probably can't walk on lava. But if you can walk on lava, my God,
You
you should
can
become a
definitely walk
superhero.
on the moon.
I feel like there's a whole lot of other issues that you should have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, and the moon is also Earth's only celestial body that
Yes,
is like
this is true.
naturally occurring.
Yeah. A
Because
lot of other planets have like multiple
yeah,
moons or other things circling
I
around
think
them.
even
So
Mars has more.
yeah. Yeah. I think you're right.
So Ju- Jupiter
Go
has the
on.
most with a confirmed 53, but also a possible 26 as well. They're literally called provisional moons. And with the
Just in case.
exception of Mercury and Venus, which has 0, Earth only has one moon.
Yeah. And how is this moon formed?
Um, Probably a giant chunk of rock that got caught in the gravity.
Ah. So here we go. what's interesting is,
Hold
um,
on. Pluto has
okay,
5 moons.
yeah,
Pluto has 5 moons. The Earth has one. Our moon is fake.
no, no, hang on.
Okay.
So the moon was not, as far as we know, is what science tells us. The moon was probably not a random rock floating through space. The moon was initially part of the Earth.
Okay.
So what had happened was a rock from space came in while the Earth was still forming, basically,
Mm-hmm.
collided with the Earth, and then did a little Newton ball
Mm-hmm.
reaction, smacked the side of the Earth, and then on the other side, a big chunk of rock came out. And that
Mm-hmm.
chunk of rock didn't just float off completely into space, it just kind of floated off a little bit, but was still close enough to the Earth that it stayed there, and it became the moon.
Okay.
And that is science's definition of how our moon was created.
So, hmm.
Yep.
Because I know other planets have caught them because Jupiter's like
Hmm.
a big ball of gas and nothing else. But
Yep.
it's like, have is there theories on any other moons being created like that? Let's start with that.
Um, Not that I know of
Okay.
personally. Um, I think the way they were able to tell how our moon was formed was by like testing the sediments and
Mm-hmm.
stuff and like the age of the
Okay.
moon compared to Earth, and they found that it's like the same stuff basically.
Okay.
Um, so, and I don't think we've really done that with other planets and their moons, mostly because we haven't been to many other planets.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, none basically, except for like the Mars rover
Yeah. So,
and some telescopes.
hmm.
So yeah,
Because, I mean, that alone kind of sounds
fishy.
a little suspicious, actually. Because think about it.
Okay.
There's a couple planets closer to the sun than us. They don't have any moons.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Is the asteroid belt before or after? Is it between? Is the asteroid belt between Earth and
Mars and
Mars?
Jupiter.
Mars and Jupiter. Okay. So Mars is the closest one to the asteroid belt. So it having
Mm-hmm.
to kind of makes sense because it can leach off two there. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
Earth with one.
Yep.
Because I'm assuming a bunch get destroyed by the asteroid belt.
Yeah, most likely.
So how how did it, I think I'm actually talking myself out of the moon being real.
Go on.
Cuz it's
So
like
how did
how,
it get through?
how did it get through to a point where it can impact the earth,
Mm-hmm.
thus like you said doing a Newton's cradle effect?
Well, so the thing is, I mean, meteors get through
Yeah, I know like
all the
meteors
time.
get through all the time, but how does one big enough cuz the moon's pretty big.
It
I
is
can
big.
see it from my house, so that's pretty big.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can almost reach it.
Ah, you should just grow a little bit more. But
True. So the thing is, it was back when the Earth was still being formed. So back then, the solar system was just a whole big wish-washy bit of nonsense of molten rock.
okay.
So like stuff was flying everywhere, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, like this was before life itself. So that's how I view it. Is like the planets probably got impacted all the time. But the thing
Yeah.
is, because they were still forming, didn't really matter. But
Okay.
clearly, one was enough of an impact to actually cause a change in the Earth. I mean, the Earth still formed fine, obviously,
Mhm. I mean,
because it was so early on.
as far as we know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be in the shape of a pyramid, but we'll never know. I mean, it's actually flat, so this whole conversation's stupid. But get to that in a different episode. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It just kind of makes sense to me that like there just happened to be one really big impact that caused the moon to shoot out of the new baby Earth, and but still stuck around to form its own little rock.
I feel we should try and test this theory. We got the CastPod lab coats.
We do not have access to space.
We don't, but like,
If I take a
what's
rock
if we? I
and I
was
throw it at some Play-Doh, will bits of Play-Doh come off of it?
okay. Play-Doh kind of makes a little bit more sense. I was thinking Jello because I feel like that's got a more magma consistency.
I think if you threw a rock at Jello, it would
It
just
just goes.
explode. Um, yeah, I feel like it would be a difficult thing to test because we don't really have
Space.
gravity on our side, and yeah,
Yeah.
in space.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
you know,
let's. We'll work on it. We'll see if we can
yeah,
figure out a
we'll
way
come
where we
back to
can
it. We'll come back to it.
throw something at something else and make a small little, roughly moon proportionate size chunk come out of it and
Hmm.
not go obnoxiously far.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got it
So
slightly
like,
wrong.
yeah.
I just looked it up. Um, that it apparently it's called the giant impact theory. The moon was formed during a collision between the Earth and another small planet
Oh, like the
about the
Ewoks.
size of Mars. And then the debris from the impact collected in an orbit around Earth to form the moon. So it wasn't just like an asteroid came through,
And
bopped the Earth, and then the
yeah.
moon popped out. It was something similar to Mars in size,
Okay.
colliding
Collided,
with the
yeah.
Earth, and then all those bits and pieces that came off
Mhm.
started circling around the Earth and then eventually just
Yeah.
turned into the moon as they all collected together.
Okay, cuz I can kind of I believe that a lot more than just an asteroid getting through
Yeah.
and Newton's cradling it. Cuz like there's a lot of is there no pressure or a lot of pressure in space? I think there's a lot,
Um,
right?
yes,
Okay.
sure.
I don't know cuz like for all the shrapnel creating the like condensing creating the moon, that's
Mm-hmm.
like just taking a bunch of snow and making a snowball.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean, it's
very
mostly
plausible.
gravity.
Yeah, but you know, real life, real, real life equivalent.
Sure.
Snow.
Yes. Yeah, basically, that's what happened. Um, because I mean, I think initially what would have happened would be like Earth had a ring at some point, but that ring condensed,
Hmm.
like Saturn, you know.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that is the actual most accepted theory on how the moon was formed.
Interesting.
Hmm. So yeah, the moon basically is what the Earth would look like if there was never any uh, water and like life.
Hmm. Now I'm getting
So
a
think
lot
about
of
that.
moon related Google searches.
Good. So now, what are some other theories about
So
how the moon was made? Because that's the science one. But what
that's the
else we got?
science one. All right, let's start with the classic like cartoon theory of the moon is made of cheese.
The moon is made of cheese.
So
That's it.
yeah,
That's the theory.
specifically green cheese.
Yes. Right.
I'm
My
kind
favorite
of.
kind.
Hold on, give me a second.
Okay.
This is loading.
Mm-hmm. Um,
Okay, so the moon is made of cheese theory is because of how the reflection of the moon would look on water. It would
okay.
kind of look like cheese.
All right. I mean, I can see it.
So it's kind of like a little bit of a cheese wheel, like, oh, you're silly. Like, the word they use is simpleton. So you see the moon's reflection in water, and a simpleton will go, "Why, there's cheese there."
Uh-huh.
Now, this is also in the times where the concept of the Earth even being round wasn't even a thing.
Yeah, good point.
So,
So, no surprise there that they weren't entirely sure what was going on with the moon.
yeah.
Although this myth was definitely perpetuated by the Wallace and Gromit
Oh,
show
absolutely.
and
And
movie.
just cartoons in general.
Yeah.
The amount of times you see a cartoon character just take a fork out of their back pocket in space and eat a chunk of moon,
Mm-hmm.
it's more than you think.
I mean, how are we not supposed to grow up and believe that the moon is made out of cheese? Everybody's telling us it is. So, you know.
Absolutely, it is.
But does this imply the existence of a celestial cow big enough to form cheese the size of the moon?
Hear me out. We do
Okay.
live in the Milky Way galaxy.
My God. It's all coming together.
I feel
I
like
didn't.
we're gonna prove so many different points, like so many things
Somebody's
wrong, and we're just gonna go with it. But we're gonna
some.
unintentionally make at least one right conspiracy theory on this show.
I think somebody is definitely gonna quote us in a tweet sometime
I hope so.
in their insane ramblings about their conspiracy theory. And like, see, here it was talked about in his podcast. It's definitely made of cheese.
hmm
And
I'm
I'll
gonna
look at it
have a,
and I'll laugh.
I'm gonna have a field day writing the tags of these for this episode.
Yeah, I hope that one day when I go down one of my YouTube rabbit holes of conspiracy theories, I find our videos.
That
That's
would
the
be a
dream.
time. All right.
What
So,
else we got for the moon and how it was created?
how was the moon created?
Because I know a couple,
Okay,
although
shoot.
I don't. Um, so obviously there's the idea that there was the impact. Um, there's the idea that it's made from cheese, from a
hmm
giant celestial space cow. But as I mentioned, there's also theories that the moon is a spaceship.
Okay,
That
continue.
in fact it is not, um, this just giant rock that happens to be
Planetary.
floating around. Pardon?
Planetary.
Yes.
I thought I was gonna burp and yawn at the same time, so it just came out.
And it's just a
Ha
planet.
ha
Yep.
ha.
At least it's on topic.
hmm
Um, yeah. So people think that it is actually this like giant space station, whether it's used by the government or aliens.
hmm
Nobody really knows, but it's referred to as the hollow moon hypothesis or the spaceship moon hypothesis.
Hmm.
Um, and it is uh, kind of an interesting idea. I
Okay.
don't really know why people think that is the way it is when like many planets have moons.
I mean, for all we know, like, kind of to build into that theory a little bit. Have you ever seen the movie The Truman Show?
I have not.
So it's a Jim Carrey movie. First off,
Okay.
and I kind of want to rewatch it, but
Okay.
he was he was basically born into this dome that's like you live on he lives on a small island, and the entire premise is there is a 24/7 cable channel that is just streaming what he's doing. Just
Mm.
this guy whose entire life only known, I live in this dome. I do these things, I can do these small things here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond the horizon line, like, it's outside of the dome. And of course, at the end of the movie, he eventually gets out. But, and like discovers, oh no, there's a whole new world. But if you like think about it, what would be an excellent horizon line for like a controlled experiment?
Mm.
Because like he knows, I think the issue with, I mean, a little bit of the issue with the show, where kind of like entangled, they just go, oh, like, this is your birthday. Oh, these lanterns are for the missing princess's birthday. And it's just like, if you change one little fact, I feel like it can make everything a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, and it's like in the Truman Show, they, I don't believe they ever explicitly say it's like this is the entire world. It's like, nope, you there's still other continents, still can go to Australia. So it's like they put the motion of there is limitless places to go. Also, everybody that he interacts with is a paid actor, by the way.
Good. This
He's
sounds very similar to some other
yeah,
conspiracy theories as well.
it's like a 1984 kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. I'm
But
thinking more of the Australia isn't real, but go on.
now Australia is real. There's no way there'd be that many terrifying creatures in one spot.
We'll get to it.
But so it's like, think about it. The only places that humans can easily inhabit are on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So what if they just went with a limiting factor, and the moon is, it's a constantly revolving around us space station, in order to observe what would happen in this, basically, for lack of a better words, ant farm experiment.
Mm. You make a good point.
Because the moon does get pretty much every single angle, and if you watch any like videos about ant farms and ant colonies like I do, Ants Canada, by the way, check it out. It's a good time. Um, it's like if you observe only one singular spot, despite there might be a lot of moving back and forth going on, it does get pretty dull in that one singular spot. However, if you're constantly changing and looking around, a lot more liveliness and entertainment is happening. So how about
Interesting.
them apples?
I mean, you've proved it. The moon is definitely hollow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've just been reading up on some theories about the moon being hollow. And it's very interesting in its
Okay.
kind of creation and explanations. The actual scientific stuff is complicated
Okay.
because it talks about moments of inertia parameters um, and all this like really physics stuff, seismic observations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we'll get into that. But basically, no, I do not believe that the moon is hollow. But for the gag, I will. So initially, apparently the first like mainstream mention of the hollow moon was from the author H.G. Wells
Ah,
in his book, The First Men in the Moon. And that was the first, like, recorded time, I guess, that somebody has talked about the
the
moon
moon
being
being hollow.
hollow.
Yeah.
Um, and he actually stole that idea, or borrowed it, I guess, from the hollow earth theory, which is its own really
Yeah.
interesting topic that has been talked about forever, basically. They give the credit to Edmund Halley in 1692, but I feel like it's been around maybe even longer than that. The idea that, inside there, like the movie and the books and all that, Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you ever seen those?
Yeah. I've seen the Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah. Um, so it came from that, the theory that the Earth was hollow, and H.G. Wells was like, but what if the moon was hollow? And people were like, you know what, I can kind of
Hang
get behind that.
on.
Um, and people have been discussing it ever since, and their like evidence behind it basically is that there were some interesting seismic readings coming from it. They see that the crust of the moon is actually really thin in comparison to like the Earth and other planets. It has a really like thick mantle and then a small core. So that's why they think that like that mantle is probably actually like open space.
Mm-hmm.
Like to have like a thin outer exterior and then like a lot of inside. And also apparently the moon is much less dense compared to the Earth. Apparently the moon's density is 3.3 grams per cubic centimeter, while the Earth is 5.5 grams per cubic centimeter. And it explains why that is in this, but again, I'm not going to teach people physics right now. But yeah,
That's another show.
that's yeah. Go look up um, Julius Sumner Miller, and I'm sure
Yes.
he will tell you because physics is
Absolutely.
his business. So
And he knows a lot more than we do.
exactly. But yeah, so basically, it's just really interesting. And again, there's theories that it is either hollow housing aliens, ancient astronauts, or the government.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. So I've got a theory we mentioned before, but I definitely want to deep dive into this a little bit.
Yes, please go on. I know where
So
we're going with this.
the surface of the moon.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna use the term allegedly here. That allegedly people have walked on the moon.
Yes.
And the reason I say allegedly is because there's so many cooler theories, specifically the Great Moon Hoax.
Mm.
So, kind of gonna give a little bit of a impromptu wham bam, this is what happened, because we go a little bit into it deeper in the CastPod episode. That on the moon there was a bunch of animals, including bison, goats, unicorns, bipedal tailless beavers, and bat-like winged humanoids. Verspitello Homo, who built temples. Um, there were trees, oceans, and beaches, and these discoveries were made with an immense telescope of an entirely new principle.
Hmm.
So I kind of want to like this has been my favorite theory. I keep making a meme out of it, and
Hmm.
it's just the more I look into it, the it's so absurd. There's storks on the moon,
Right.
unicorns, some unicorns with two horns, which I'm pretty sure is just an antelope or a gazelle.
A bicorn, if you will, or maybe
Bicorn.
a deer.
Can we start calling deer bicorn?
Yes.
I love it. Um,
I'm still thinking about the bipedal tailless
yeah, I feel like that's not
beavers.
addressed enough. Also, the fact that it's like,
What a
so
description, first of
yeah.
all.
First
How do
off,
you know it's a beaver if it doesn't have a tail?
yeah, isn't it just like it could be a nutria rat,
I've been trying to picture like what actual animal would be a bipedal tailless beaver.
beaver?
And I'm like, yeah.
No,
But like,
the part that emphasizes a beaver is the tail.
is it the tail? So it's like that's just literally any rodent standing on its legs,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. Yeah,
But also they're like semi-aquatic, so I guess you'd.
it'd be.
But then why would it be bipedal and semi-aquatic? You know,
Couldn't tell you.
this is a conservation topic,
This
but
is
still,
we'll talk about niches and
and bipedal
and bipedal
tailless beavers.
beavers. Yep. So there was a series of articles published in a New York newspaper, The Sun, in the 1830s, starting in 1835. And I feel like that's. So, have you ever seen that chart where it's like you have it's like the possibility of weird occurrences, and it's like a curve starting to go like pretty flat line of like people knowing weird occurrences that happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have like when the camera's invented, and then it drops down a lot, and then so it's like because you can't really prove it, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have it go up again when it's like Photoshop's invented.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's kind of a little bit of that like niche, like everything's a 100% believable moment of
Right.
it's the 1835. A lot's going on, but not a lot is. I mean, a lot's going on, and there's a lot of pretty big events, but we're not that advanced, if that makes sense.
No,
Like,
I get what
we
you're
haven't
saying.
reached space yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the great hoax, I can't even say it without laughing. It's like you have a select group of people that are all like kind of like that specialize in the moon, and it's not like modern times where it's like if I wanted to I looked up and very quickly got the NASA page on the moon. Like this information wasn't like multiple sources. Everyone's able to easily check in on it and check up on people. It's like here are your options. You can believe Jimmy or you can believe Mark.
Yeah, that's usually how they start, right?
Yeah.
It's just one guy being like, you know what? There's unicorns on the moon. And everyone's like, what?
And here's the thing though.
Tell me more.
The discoveries were, like they weren't it wasn't given by this guy. Um but they have been attributed. So the person that's been credited is Sir John Herschel, who
It's always a
is,
sir, isn't it?
yeah, he was a polymath mathematician, chemist, inventor, and experimental photographer who invented the blueprint. So,
Really?
yeah, he invented the blueprint. He named seven of Saturn's suns, or seven of Saturn's moons, and four moons of Uranus
Thank you.
discovered by his father. So his dad discovered a planet.
Hmm.
So back then, when like the English royal line, and there's a lot more like monarchy down the line style things of trade, especially of trades. He, it's like you have this guy that proved, oh, there's another planet, and then his son's like, you know what there is? Moon people. They're man bats, and it's like also if you look at it like, so he's from England,
Hmm.
and I like the fact of like the national animal of Scotland is the unicorn, and this is when America's and England were finally on like goodish terms. It's after the original wars starting America, so it's like including bison and goats. So like goats were already rampant in England, and bison were now a known thing. So I feel like he might have just took a second and was like, there are bison, and like just looked to his left and was like, and goats, and then looked around and was like, and unicorns. Oh yeah, can't forget the unicorns.
That makes me think of the bit in Family Guy when he's in like a rehab place,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Oh, I gotta make up a name."
Yeah,
He sees a P, there's P, somebody crying, tear, and then a griffin
Peter.
flies through the room. And he
Yeah,
goes,
Griffin.
"Griffin, dang it!"
That's exactly what I feel like could lead to it.
Yeah, that sounds about right
And
to
this
me.
is also once again in the times of people not questioning things.
Can I just call out people from the olden days real quick?
Yeah.
I feel like it was way easier to be famous back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Like to become a sir or like a world renowned scientist or
Hmm.
something. Like I felt like you could do anything,
Yeah.
and like people would be like, "Ah, yes, here's your knighthood, and here's your Wikipedia article. Enjoy."
Hmm.
You know, because like, I mean, don't get me wrong, this guy clearly has an impressive resume, but
Yeah. So
like,
why?
I, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's always the case though. Is like, you hear these ridiculous conspiracy theories, you look up who made them, and it's like this person who seems like they'd be a genius,
But it's
like
not.
they have all these things going for them, but then you see them make this theory, and it's like, do you think back then were they just kind of swinging at anything? You know, like they just say stuff, and then if it was true, they were famous. But every once in a while, they everybody had their own little great moon hoax where they're like, yeah, it's literally just like throwing darts at a board and like of scientific ideas,
Hmm.
and then you know sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a moon hoax.
So here's here's also the part that I feel like it's you get the like either he tried again with something else because like the Great Moon hoax started in 1935 or sorry
Mhm.
1835, 100 years
Think so?
earlier than I just said. In eight and Herschel in 1839 coined the term photography.
Wow.
In in the 1840s, he collaborated with the portrait painter to Queen Victoria.
Hmm.
He won a the gold medal of the Royal Astronomical Society in both 1826 and 1836. So this man had so much backing him up, and he gets credited with the Great Moon Hoax. And everyone was like, yeah. And
Yep.
So he was coined with it, and to like kind of give him some credit, he didn't actually accept that he made the theory, but that's also like I can. But like if you're picking somebody to start a theory when there's not a lot of communication go around,
Hmm.
I feel like that's the move because he's very well represented. And he actually got annoyed because he had to answer questions from people who believe the hoax was serious. That's legitimately what it says. And it's like you start this like thing and it's like this is before the days of fact checking really at first. Cuz like if I texted you right now saying, "Hey, what do you see?" and
I'd
you would text
say
me
a
like
laptop.
a laptop and then I'd be like Pixar didn't happen and you could send me a picture right away and I could fact check with you despite you living
And then you reverse
full
Google image search
yeah.
the picture of my laptop, and it's actually just the first image I could think of when Googling laptop selfie.
So it's like we can check really quickly now. Back then it's like publications were swarming around New York and this guy's living in England and he's just like I've been associated with what now? So yeah.
It's a pretty great theory, though.
And
I
then
mean, like, I believe it.
so there's a couple of guys.
Thanks for the reassurance.
So the person who publicly admitted to being the author in 1840 was Richard Adams Locke,
Hmm.
and he and there was so the by his satire and his description, Reverend Thomas Dick, who was known as a Christian philosopher, computed that the moon alone would have 4.2 billion inhabitants.
Right. Makes sense.
And not just any inhabitants, bison, goats, unicorns, bipedal tailless beavers, and bat winged humanoids.
Yeah, clearly.
So
How
there's
cool
that.
would that be, though?
That would be pretty cool.
Like, I remember this actually reminds me of it was a thing. I think it was an April Fool's thing.
Hmm.
Um, that like it was in a magazine for reptiles, and they were like life discovered on Mars. I think it was Mars and not the moon.
Hmm.
And it was a picture of this little lizard-looking thing, like in a photo of Mars, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." I went around my house showing people because I was a child. Um, and
I
they're
like how
like,
you gotta preface that.
well, I need to let the people know that I'm not this easily swayed anymore. And they were like, "Oh, that's funny," and I'm like, "What do you mean it's funny? This is real." And they're like, "No." Like, dang it! And then I look closer and I realize there's just a Photoshop picture of a blue-tongued skink with 6 legs, just pasted
You got
onto
bamboozled.
a picture of Mars, and I was like, "Ah, it did look kind of familiar."
You got bamboozled.
I did. I would be one of the people in the 1800s to believe the Great Moon hoax. Because, I mean, we didn't know anything
We.
back in the olden days.
I
We
feel like
still
we
don't
knew.
know much.
I feel like we knew so much, but also knew nothing.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost at an hour actually. Should
Wow.
should we continue or should we make the Great Moon or sorry, the Moon Part 2?
I'm trying to think what other things we could say about the moon. Because I mean, I think we've hit pretty
Pretty
much
much everything.
everything. Just kidding. There's the moon landing.
Should that be its own episode?
I think it could be.
All right. Moon landing, its own episode. So I
Yep.
kind of want to do. I thought of this a little bit ago while I was talking about the moon hoax and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's end off the every CastPod conspiracy
Conspiracy.
going with we each get one, and it's like the I said it, I'm right theory. So we each get to state our one theory about the moon,
Mm-hmm.
and then in who knows at some point in time something happens to come out.
Mm-hmm.
We can just be like, I said it first. Here's the episode. Listen to Casbot Conspiracy. Episode 3. Or, well, it's episode 1, but by the time it's like, you'll be able to listen to like episode 3 as well.
Right. Okay, I'm down.
All right.
You want to go first then?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Sure.
So, my big moon theory is. I'm gonna go on the. I gotta think. I have a couple that I talked myself into. Gonna be honest.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that, like, starting with how the moon was created, I do think it could have been another planet colliding with what we now know as Earth
Right.
and combining to spawn the moon. However, it was. I'm trying to think of. There was a show that they showed um, them taking Earth's atmosphere and putting it around the moon, and I feel like it was a Phineas and Ferb episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, because they had cows in space.
yeah, who also had astronaut suits,
Mm-hmm.
which that was cool.
That was cool.
They also melted the ice on it to liquefy grass seeds with hand warmers.
Yes.
So,
Yes, they did.
so at some evolutionary point, there was something that was able to survive on the moon, both mostly plant based, but also there were some things that were able to mutate to animals. So that created the lovely little forest and oceans and plains of the Great Moon Hoax. And then, of course, if you look at the taxonomic tree, goats and bison and unicorns are all very closely there. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, due to mutations, you get tailless beavers and winged humanoids.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the moon started as the leftovers of two planets colliding, and became a veritable utopia, if you will.
Right.
That's my theory on how the moon is.
Dang, I've thought of two theories now.
All right, you could say both of them.
Okay. One's definitely more thought out than the other. Um, so the first one is that the moon was the first Earth.
Okay. Ooh.
So back in ye olden days of like the 1970s, aliens came and they were like, we're going to make life on another planet because we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a bunch of rocks together and then they made the moon and they made life on it. And they did their best, but it didn't work out, didn't last that long. And it ended up becoming just kind of boring. Everything was dying. Wasn't great. So they're like, okay, new idea. We make it bigger we add water this time and see how that goes. And so they created the Earth right next to it as like a model to see what they initially did and how they can improve. And then it worked out. And they're like, "Oh, cool. Okay, now we know how to make life. Let's go do other things now." And
Mm-hmm.
then the Earth just kind of persisted, and the moon is, what would happen to us if we ever die out, like all life, that is, not just people.
Hmm.
My
Interesting.
other theory is that the moon is Atlantis, and that's why we can't find it.
Okay.
It's just on the dark side.
Uh, so it's too dark to see because the lights are out.
Yeah, see, when God was playing golf with the planets, he hit Earth a little too hard with the club,
Mm-hmm.
and then a little bit popped out, and that was Atlantis. So then Atlantis, the bottom part, which is like part of the Earth, which is what we see as the light side of the moon,
Mm-hmm.
that's the underside, and the dark side is Atlantis. But it's okay because he gave them all spacesuits.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I like that theory.
Thank you.
The Atlanteans all have
Can
spacesuits.
you tell which one was more thought out than the other?
Yeah, takes a lot to think of giving them spacesuits.
Yeah, right. Took me a while for that.
All right. So that has been the first formal episode of CastPod Conspiracy with the moon. We will be back next week with a CastPod Conservation.
Also, for anybody who has watched Rick and Morty, um, there's a line that is from a very funny bit that I say a lot, where they just go, "and then the moon." And I felt like I just had to say that somewhere in this episode for people that get that reference.
Well,
So,
don't you worry, Callum, because not next week, because that's a CastPod Conservation spot, but the
true.
week afterwards, which would be if I look at my handy dandy calendar, because I don't know how
Hmm.
to add.
Right.
That would be December 4th. There,
Wow.
yes, it's almost December. We almost beat 2020.
Oh my God. You say that like we have something to look forward to.
Yeah. We also have to formally have Castpod episode Dickety Dickety.
Ah, finally.
Um, we'll be back with talking a little bit more about the moon and specifically the moon landing.
Yeah, because I mean, there's lots of fun things that we can talk about the moon,
Hmm.
but like, I think the biggest, most well-known theory
The Great
or
Moon Hoax.
conspiracy theory, other than the Great Moon hoax,
Oh,
has to be
the moon
the
land.
moon landing.
So yeah, that's gonna get its own episode.
Yep,
All right, Cal. Where can they find us?
you can find us here. You're watching the video. You see the channel. Subscribe to it. Do it. Do it. Do it. And then you can also find us with several socials. We have other YouTube channels, such as CastPod Games,
Mm-hmm. That's
the Unnamed Media Project,
Name
right?
Project Media. You're
Unnamed
so
Project Media.
close. That's okay. I get it wrong too.
What? Um, we've got Twitch channels, the both of us,
Mm-hmm.
Vandy D and Bellyache. We've got uh, Instagrams, Twitters,
Yeah,
all kinds of things.
all kinds of things. And aren't you supposed to be saving the world?
That's true. And I have a other separate YouTube channel dealing with animal stuff. So check out all of those things. Subscribe to all of those things. And be back next week where we talk about more things.
Yes. Specifically conservation.
Yes, but then after that other
After
stuff
in
as well.
2 weeks we talk about space again.
More space.
The final frontier.
And then the moon.